How you doing? You're doing all right? Okay, we're getting some smiles. Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I know best, because I feel like talking about what you know best is probably your best idea, right? I do many things, as I'm sure all of you do many things, right? So I'm going to take the temperature of the room and just want to know who you are a little bit before I get started so I can speak more to who's in the room. So if you are a teacher, if you teach, raise your hand for me. Raise your hand. Oh, okay, beautiful. Oh, look. Ooh. Bless you. You guys are amazing people. All right. If you are a school counselor, will you raise your hand for me? You work with our wonderfully challenging sometimes, but the best kids ever, right? Okay, good. How many of you are parents? Parents in the room. All right, parents. I feel like there should be more parents raising their hands, right? Most of you are parents also in this room. All right. Okay, well, good. I want to talk about a couple of things today that hopefully will resonate with you when you think about the kid that might struggle more in your classroom. I have kids that I work with at Royal Family Kids Camp, which is a camp for abused and neglected children ages 7 to 11 from the foster care system in the U.S. And I was just there 3 weeks ago. We just took 88 children and 105 adults to take care of those sweet 88 children. And they had us running around. They had us doing lots of fun things. They had us, some moments, loving on them intensely with a hold so that they would not hurt themselves or someone else. Those are our most interesting moments. We have 3 nurses on staff and 5 licensed marriage and family therapists to take care of our kids when they get, you're going to hear this word a lot, dysregulated. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what happens in the brain. I want to talk to you a little bit about what you can do to help our kids have the best outcome to thrive. So you answered this question a little bit just a moment ago, but I want you to think about it a little bit differently. I want you to think about what the kid needs in order to learn. What do our kids actually need inside of them in order to be able to learn? Any ideas? Any ideas about what your kids need inside of them to be able to learn? Safe. I like you already. Thank you. I'm going to get to you in a moment. Happy? Happy. We like happy. I like happy. I'll take happy. Comfortable. Okay. What else? Curiosity. I love curiosity. Thank you. I tell my therapist to be that all the time. Attention. Yes. Yes. They need a lot more than we probably imagine some days, right? And some days you as teachers go home really tired. Never. Come on, never. You go home really tired? There are days I go home as a therapist exhausted, right? Amen, right? Like, oh my gosh, if I have to do this one more time, I'm not sure I'm going to make it. But I go back every time, you guys, right? Just like you do. You go back every time. I want you to think about why your most exhausting day has been your most exhausting day. What have you done that has made it so tiring? Yes?
I think empathetic, not compassionate.
I have been empathetic, not compassionate. I like it. There's a big difference. What else? What has made your most exhausting day the most exhausting day? What have you done? Tried to help and solve the problem. You are problem solvers, are you not, as teachers? And you're solving not only the problems that you have in the classroom, but every child and every parent's parent. Don't get mad. Don't be upset with me by the time we're done, okay? Because I don't want any mad parents. I really love parents. I work with a lot of kids in therapy. I really love parents. But no one gave you the book, right? And even as a teacher, as much schooling as you did to go and become a wonderful human being and teach, No one gave you a book. My stepmom, who is sweet, that's what we're just going to end it there, who is sweet, likes to say to me, because I am not yet married, you must tell your clients what's in the book. And I think, man, if it was that easy, we wouldn't need therapists, right? And if it was easy enough for us to read a book, we wouldn't have to be worried about how to help people learn, right? If my students would please, Lord help me, read what they are given to read. They're adults, people, they're adults. But they do not always read what they are given, and more importantly, they're not always thinking about what they're reading to then implement what we want them to know. Anybody? Anybody? Like, man, come on, let's just a little bit. All right, so what I think people need, thank you for giving the answer. I'm going to add a word in front of it. What I see in neuroscience and what I see in the work that I do with my kiddos, what I see in the work that I do in therapy, what I see with my students, even as adults, is what we really need is some felt safety. How many of you heard that word before? Raise your hand for me. Felt safety, okay. All right, okay. There is a difference in this room right now, you all feel pretty safe, right? Like, no one's gonna come in and hurt any of us. No one's gonna start yelling at you about something. No one's gonna, right? Like, you feel pretty like, I'm good, right? Okay, right? Now, some of you, maybe in your life, you've been in a big space and something not so great happened. And so there might be a little bit of an anxiety, right? A little bit of like, I don't really like all these people around me. Anybody? No? Okay. I love all these people around me. I love all these, right? But some of us may have a little bit of a different temperament. We may, from our own life experience, feel something different than what somebody else might be feeling. And this is why felt safety is such a difficult concept, because it is not about, is the room safe? It is about, do I feel safe? That is a whole nother realm to deal with, friends. It's a whole nother space, a whole nother ball game to help 88 kids on a mountain with no electronics from the States go and be active all day long. Our hope is always that they then just go right to sleep. That's my hope. It doesn't seem to happen. I seem to be putting little 7-year-old boys to bed from homesickness, but COVID. But what they really want is just to feel safe, right? Now, you think, well, I do lots of good things in my classroom, Susan, to help people feel safe. I haven't been mean to any of my children, and I'm sure that's true. But when all of our life experiences are inside of us every day, they don't leave us, right? Your life experience doesn't leave you. You may have a different perspective about it. You may have been able to reframe it. You may have been able to go, okay, maybe that wasn't so bad. Maybe 3 flights to get to India wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad. So I want you to think about the ways that we can increase felt safety. And I'm going to give you some ideas. You don't have to go this alone. I'm going to give you some ideas. You may or may not like my ideas. I'm just going to put it out there for you right this moment. You may or may not like my ideas, but I'm going to give them to you because I would love for you to just pick a day and try it for the day and see what happens. See if you get something different, okay? But before we can do anything, we have to know how every human being's brain works. It does not matter if you have had a bunch of trauma in your life. It doesn't matter if you've had no trauma in your life. All of our brains work in a very particular way. Anybody know where your amygdala is? In your brain, good. Thank you. That's all I needed to know. Thank you. Yes, it is in your brain. All right, good. I'm glad. We've started in the right spot, people. We've started in the right spot. All right. Okay, so take your hand and put your thumb inside your hand, which on that finger is on the other hand is not good. All right. So if your hand is a brain, if you pull that front part in front, right? If your hand is a brain, I want you to think about this being your amygdala and this being your brainstem. Here's what happens. Everything is evaluated for threat by the amygdala. Everything. Which, thank goodness, because if a bear is coming at you, you want your brain to know exactly what to do. Right? You don't want your brain to then go, oh no, this is going to be fine. It's just a dog. Let's pet it. That's a bad idea, right? That's a bad idea. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. So we need our brain to really look at, am I in trouble? Am I threatened? Does this feel scary, right? For little kids, sometimes I say, does your brain just feel yucky sometimes? Just feels yucky? Especially my littles that I have in the office. It just feels yucky sometimes, right? So we have our amygdala, and our amygdala fires our 4 Fs. You know this. The 4th F, they keep changing, but you just go with neuroscience sometimes. We're all figuring it out still. Flight, fight.
Freeze.
Do you know the last F? Freeze we got. I hope not. Although it does, but it's not in the amygdala. We now call it fawn. I know, and it used to be only 3 Fs. We changed it to 4. It used to be another F that I can't think of right now. Remember 10 hours. But it is now fawn. Do you know what fawning means? It's people pleasing. Yeah, it's oh, okay, I'll do whatever you tell me right now. Now, I am positive that those are your favorite children in the room. Come on, they're my favorite students. The ones that just do what they're told. Not the naughty ones. We'll talk about the naughty ones. I like those for different reasons. But the ones that do exactly what you want, that's really helpful to you, right? The ones that are just on task, doing what they need to do, right? Now, this is a scary thought, but go with me for a moment. It might still mean their brain feels threatened. They might not actually be in felt safety. They might actually still be terrified, but they're going to fawn and do what you want so that they do not have to feel what they're feeling, feel the fear. Right? So, now, we are all built this way. Every single one of us. Every single one of our brains works with the amygdala first. Now, if it gets through the amygdala, then you get to go with life. Yeah. And hopefully, we use things like our prefrontal cortex, right? Which is the front part of our brain, which tends to be very logic, has our language in there. It's really smart. Now, other research shows it's really not on for us until our late 20s, depending on gender. But it gives us enough that we are able to kind of get to this space where we are in that spot. Now, calming the amygdala is your goal. This is all I do in therapy, you guys. Because I work with trauma every single day, day in and day out, my goal is to, in the room with clients, calm their amygdala, and then teach them outside of the room how to calm their amygdala, right? Because we can learn those skills on our own too. Now, it's nice to have a co-regulator. We'll talk about that in a second. But we really can do this on our own too. We really can bring our amygdala back into a safe, calm, felt safety place. It takes a little bit more work because it's only us. I'm having to regulate something that's not regulated all on my own. It's much easier to do with other people. The goal, though, for you as the educator, for me as the therapist, for me as a human being when one of my friends are not in the best space, is to stay calm no matter what. Is that an easy task for you? You feel like, yeah, I got that. I'm always calm. Yeah, okay. All right, we're going to work on it right now. All right. So one of the things that we know about the amygdala that calms the amygdala is a caring, nurturing adult. If we think about attachment theory is all about the baby has a need, the baby is crying. What hopefully happens in a semi-normative amount of time, Winnicott says that we cannot be perfect, we're just good enough mothering. We're good enough, right? We're not going to get the baby the moment the baby starts crying, right? It's okay to let a baby cry for a little bit, right? But I'm going to come and I'm going to take care of the baby. Maybe the baby needs to be held. Maybe the baby needs to be fed. Maybe the baby needs to be changed, right? And this tells the baby that when I need something, I cry and I get it, right? So if we fast forward into adulthood, when I say what I need, I'm most likely going to get it. Does that feel good? That makes us happy, comfortable, right? Those are the words we used earlier about our students. Happy, comfortable, right? So if I then have my need met, if I'm then able to say, I am seen, I am heard, I matter. Those are some big words for some tiny humans. They're big words for tiny humans. I would say they're big words for big humans too, right? But that's what we need. We need somebody to come alongside us and say, hey, I'm here. I got you. You're going to be okay, right? When I look at my kiddos that are in full dysregulation, that are hitting, kicking, spitting, biting at camp, and I just stay calm, and I just stay with them, and I hug them at the end of it and say, all right, let's go get ready for the pool because that's your next thing going on. Let's just go do it. But when this thing happens again, let's come ask for some help. Tell me what you need and I'll get it for you. Tell me what you want and I will find it. See the need, meet the need. I will get that for you when you need it, right? Sensory-rich environments. How many of you guys have some kind of sensory in your classroom? Yeah, okay. Sitting on yoga balls for your ADHD kids is a game changer because they have to care for their body and it gives them the opportunity to focus. Okay, but we're gonna learn something together today. Are you ready? Magic mustache. I know, y'all gonna think I'm crazy, and that's okay. I'm totally used to my students looking at me like I'm crazy all the time. All right, magic mustache. So one of the things that happens is when we are in a fear state, our body doesn't know that it's grounded and here and good. It can't read it. We call that proprioception in the brain, right? The brain knows in space where it is, what's happening. I'm good, I'm grounded, I'm aware. When I am in a fear state, I am not good, grounded, and aware. It's not possible in that moment. But magic mustache can help us all to get to that normative, regulated nervous system. Okay, so you ready to do magic mustache with me? I, by the way, make my adult clients do this all the time, so I'm sorry, you're forced. Okay, all right. And can you do what you're told? Because we tell students to do what they're told all the time, right? Okay, so you're gonna put your little finger and you're gonna want to pressure this little spot that's between your mouth and your nose and press up a bit and hold. I know, it's weird, but if we all do it together, then we all look weird all at the same time, and it's okay. It's okay. Oh, press up. Come on, you gotta hold it there for a little bit. We gotta hold. Oh, I feel it already. Thank you. Let go. Did you feel any kind of little release in your body? Like your body just went, huh? Some of you didn't press hard enough. That's what I have to say. Or hold it long enough, right? So we can teach our kiddos magic mustache. It's my favorite. It's real easy. Hold it for 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and then we can all take a sigh of deep breath, right? The other quick, easy one, you got a kid who's really like, their body just keeps going. And none of you have that. None of you have it. Their body just keeps, go tell them to press down on a wall. This like also gets us back into our bodies and into proprioception. If there's a tree around, if there's something, tell them to go press on it as hard as they possibly can. It brings the nervous system back into some regulation, and that's what we want, right? We want them to be back in some regulatory state, right? Other thing we can do is, as the nurturing adult, there are 3 ways to regulate ourselves. 3 ways. Others, someone else can regulate me, right? So an outside source can kind of get me to regulate, right? This is what good therapists do. The best regulation is what you do with your children and is what we would call co-regulation. When your child comes to you crying, or a kid in your class, someone's hurt their feelings, what do? You comfort them. I think that's the word I heard. You maybe hug. Okay, good, we hug. Good, I like the touchers. Okay, we maybe say it's gonna be okay. Hey, sweet friend, you're all right. I know they hurt your feelings, but we'll talk about it after the crying, right? Because here's the other thing about our brain. When we are in dysregulation, we cannot process information. So if you are lecturing a child while they're in dysregulation, none of that information that was beautiful, wonderful, amazing went in. None of it. So we use short, condensed little phrases to help to get that regulatory system down and then have the good conversation, right? Because they can't hear it in dysregulation. It will not happen. Think about when you're overwhelmed and someone's telling you, my sweet partner, he loves to tell me, baby, you're gonna be okay. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Anybody fight their significant other in this way? No, yeah, thank you. No, I'm not. And you have no idea because you're not in my head that feels very overwhelmed right now, right? Nobody, I'm alone. I'm alone. I'm alone. Okay, it's okay. I'm used to being alone. But we really can, he just keeps saying it until I get out of my little tailspin, and then we can have a good conversation. No, I know you're right. I know I'm actually gonna be fine. I know I don't actually have to worry about all of this, right? So we have other regulation, co-regulation, which we do with people we already know and care about. Usually that's the best place in co-regulation. And then self-regulation. That's what we want to get people to. When they can self-regulate, when they know when they need the magic mustache, when they know when they need to go push on a wall, when they know they need some cuddle, some food, some energy outtake, need to go run around, right? Sometimes we just run our children. Go run, child, across the, right? Like, you just need the energy out, right? Our movement is good for that. So we want to be thinking about all the ways that we can bring back into regulation that amygdala that is what we would call on fire. So I have this little thing that we call flipping their lid, right? We were fine one moment. Think about a child. We're fine one moment, and then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, you have dysregulated. Anybody? You can think about that kid, and you're like, oh, man. Get soft, get low, get to them, and say simple things. That's the hardest part. What I find is that good parents have been able to really do some good work. Their kids mostly feel safe. And so you're used to being able to lecture. I watch my oldest sister do this with her kids all the time, and to not solve their problems. And then when she's around me and she watches me do it, she's like, how do you do that? I'm like, well, I just say it's going to be okay, and that's all, right? I just say it's going to be okay, and I wait till they're ready to have the conversation before we do it. What we find in kids who have high moments of dysregulation, that stay in dysregulation for longer than normal, that have had lots of interpersonal early childhood trauma, or who have been hospitalized a lot as a kid and been kind of torn away from their family in some ways, that's the only way that the baby brain can figure that out, is no one's taking care of me. Even though there might be medical people with them 24/7 taking care of them, the baby brain can't figure that out. Does that make sense to you? Right? So what we find is they need to eat more often. We feed our kids at camp every 2 to 3 hours. And they have snacks on hand at every moment they could possibly desire. Because I will not have a dysregulated child just due to they haven't eaten. Right? Anybody get hangry? We call it hangry in the States. Do you guys have that term here? Yeah, right? With my sister, we're just like, give her something because she just cannot deal with her life if she is hungry, right? So triple that in kiddos, right? And so sometimes it might be as simple as, do you need something to eat? Could I help you get something to eat? Now, it doesn't have to be like a meal. It could be just a snack, but something oftentimes high in protein. What happens is that when our amygdala, it keeps in this high rated scale, our cortisol levels are also really high. So when we do research on kids who've had a lot of trauma, who have been through a lot, and then the adults that come out from that, they have high levels of cortisol. And it needs some silliness. The reason that I have no problem being silly in front of a group of people is because I think silly helps us to learn. You cannot have threat and play at the same time in the brain. It doesn't work. They do not go together. I cannot be scared and playing at the same time. Just think about the logic of it, right? If I'm scared, I'm not going to go play. But if I'm playing, I'm probably, hopefully, not going to get very scared. Right? So one of the things that we do when our kids get a little bit like they're looking to ramp up, they're like getting there. Do you know what that means? Like you see it in their face, like, ooh, I just got the attitude for the first time. Oh yeah, you got some of you are smiling at me like you know exactly what I'm talking about. I just got the attitude for the first time. Instead of reprimanding the attitude, which is going to feel wrong, go with me, playful engagement. That's a lot of sass there, friend. Want to try again? Right? That's a lot of sass. Want to try again? I'd love to help you with what you need. Can you ask again? Right? So thinking about how we kind of like playfully engage. My students will come by my office and spout something off at me, and I will sometimes give a nice little playful engagement of, oh, that's how that's not going to get done. Right? Right? Just a little playful, right? I'm not trying to be mean, and I'm not trying to not meet your need, but don't come demanding in my office today. All right. You may or may not hate this tool, but I'm going to give it to you anyways, and it is going to feel like the worst idea in the world. I'm just going to say it out loud, and it's the first one on the list. It's say yes. I know, I'm sorry. It feels like I'm telling you to do some gentle parenting, and I'm not. But I am telling you that there are times where we need to see what a kid needs and go ahead and say yes. If that means that they just came back from lunch but they're still hungry, then give the snack. Say yes. Okay, I'm just letting it rest on you a little bit. I'm letting it rest on you. Okay, When a kid says, I'd really like to not do my homework right now, right? Or in a more child way, I do not want to do my homework. No, right? So here's how. Are you ready how we're going to say yes? Come on, we can do it. We can do it. We can do it. I like to give them what I hear from them first, right? It sounds like maybe doing your homework right this moment isn't the thing you want to do. Can I give you 5 minutes to color? And then we can get to your homework. We'll put on a timer. Now, I hope I didn't destroy your life by you have to put on a timer for 5 minutes, right? But the reality is that sometimes kids are just done, right? Sometimes they are just tired. Sometimes they aren't sure what is going to happen next, and they need kind of a grounding moment, right? So, and for some kids, no is a very threatening word. I know. But I will tell you that I have been doing Royal Family Kids Camp with 7 to 11-year-olds from the foster care system with high-level group home kids. They're my favorite. They are my favorite. They are my most challenging, but they are my favorite. They are the ones that I spend the most time with in the week. Now, we took on this kind of modality of working with kids, and I told my adults they could no longer use the word no. And I got a similar reaction. It doesn't go over anywhere I go, you guys. I'm just going to tell you right now. It doesn't go over well anywhere I go. But I'm going to tell you that in the 5 years that we've been using this say yes, I have had less behavioral issues. I have had less dysregulation. I've had kiddos that are happier, right? Because I've taught my people how to say yes, even if it's not what we have. Our kids get no sugars. They don't need any of that, by the way, right? And so sometimes they'll ask for something sweet. And I tell my people, well, sounds like they're hungry. Why don't you give them all the options of snacks we have and see if they'll take one of those, right? They may want chocolate. We may be working it out with popcorn, right? Beef jerky, a granola bar. Granola bars actually did pretty well. Beef jerky, not so much with children. I kept eating it. No one else was eating it. It was great fun. But say yes. Give yourself a week and try it. I know. Try it. You technically are still saying no. Aren't you? You're still saying no. You're just saying it in the nicest way possible. Right? I'm going to do it in the nicest way possible. I'm going to tell you no by telling you yes, and I don't have that. Right? Yeah. You still got to do your homework, buddy. Still got to get done. But can I give you 5 minutes to do something else? Sure. 3 minutes to do something else? Sure. Why not? Why not? Right? You need a little brain break? Everybody does? Sure. Okay. The other thing is provide options. When I say provide options, I mean provide 2 other options. Peas and carrots, friends, peas and carrots. We're not asking. If you overwhelm, and you may have done this before in your teaching career, if you overwhelm with options, you will get no good answers, right? You will overwhelm them with options. You know what's cool about giving options? Give the 2 you want them to pick. That's how I win every little thing that I do, right? Yeah, you've got two options. You can do it now or you can do it later. Right? I still win. I still am getting it done. Right? Yes? All right. Okay. Y'all smiling at me, so I'm a little scared that either I've totally overwhelmed you or you're just incredibly nice people, and I'm going to go with the latter. Or both. Both. Okay. When it gets out of control, and I'm sure you've had a kid in your room, out of control. Anybody? Anybody? And no? Okay. No? You don't deal with out of control kids. I'm impressed. I don't know what to do with. Okay. All right. Here we go. Okay. All right. So here's the response we want to give as much as possible when it's above and beyond, right? When playful engagement hasn't worked, when putting some food in them also hasn't given you the desired answer, when providing options has also, nope, we're just going to fight this. Kid is just going to fight no matter what, right? They're in that dysregulated state. Fight is the answer. We're going to have to figure this out differently, right, friends? Yeah. So we have a way. Ideal. It's ideal, you guys. You're welcome. Immediate. So here's one of the things that parents tend to, this is one of the things that as a therapist I tell my parents all the time. We need to catch the behavior more right after, right? I'm going to tell you a little secret. I'm a little anti they get in trouble at school and they get in trouble at home. Because it's not immediate. And their little brains can't always connect that I'm also getting in trouble for this thing I did 7 hours ago. Anybody? No? No? Okay. Hold that one for later. See if it works for you. We'll throw it out if it doesn't. But immediate, directly in front of the child. This whole screaming the name across the room, nope. No, never going to get a good answer because screaming might feel threatening. Might, right? Even if your best intention is for good, right? That screaming over the room is not. So we want to get over as close as we can to them. Get down on that level, depending on how tall and short they are. And really, excuse me, be efficient in that you are solving the immediate problem. The immediate problem is what? What is the thing that they're doing that you would like them to no longer be doing? State it. Hey, buddy, you're up on a high ledge. I'm worried about your safety. I would like you to get down, right? Can you allow me to help you to get down safely, right? These are the things, right? We kind of want to like, you're using your hands and your feet to hurt others. We need to not be doing that right now. So let's go over into a different room maybe and let's get you with people who can help, right? Make sure that it's action-based. We want to make sure that we are really telling them what exactly we want them to do. I think we miss this. We say, no, don't do that. So what should I do, right? So give them the other side of what should I do, right? And then leveled at the behavior. And this is where we as adults need to be as centered as we possibly can be. Because sometimes you've dealt with one child, and then you're dealing with another, and then you're dealing with another. And by the time you get to the fifth, it's not really their fault. But you might not be in your best headspace at that moment, right? When I am running around camp and I've got one kid that's done one thing and I'm moving into the next one that's doing another thing that is not okay, right? I have to breathe and get myself into a regulated space so that I can then deal with the child at the level of behavior that they are giving, not at the level I feel I am at, right? And this is why working with children is the greatest joy and the hardest thing in the world, right? Because we as adult human beings have to know how to stay regulated ourselves in order to then regulate the children in the room, the adult in the room, the youth in the room, whomever's in the room, right? But if we can get there, we can do really good things. They can thrive, you can thrive, we can all do good things. So a lot of what I've shared is out of Texas Christian University. It's the Karen Purvis Institute for Child Development. And this is their sayings, and I love them. So it is stay calm no matter what. That's for the adult, not the child. See the need behind the behavior. If you have a kiddo that erupts every time after lunch, figure out a better transition to the classroom from lunch. There's something happening there. See the pattern, right? And maybe it's that their brain went to, oh my gosh, my lunch is done? I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Who doesn't want to throw a fit about lunch not being done and not being ready, right? Everybody does. Meet the need, find the way. And this is where my people at camp have really, like in enormous ways, stepped up to when they see a need, they do everything they can to meet it for the kiddo. And even if that means grabbing a director and saying, yes, the director will call your mom because you are so sad to be at camp right now, and we will go ahead and give them a call. Or one of the things we did a lot of this year was, is there something you can tell me to tell your mom about what you're enjoying about camp and what you want her to know today, right? Like, let's make it a thing that's happier, right? And give them also an option to be in communication. Then they would go back to the co-director and they would say, did you talk to my mom? And she would be like, your mom is so excited that you're having a good time at camp, right? So you've empowered them to be able to ask for some questions, ask for some things, but you've also said to them like, hey, you're gonna make it. It's gonna be okay, right? We're meeting that need. And then this is my favorite saying, and this saying it always makes me cry because I feel like there are too many kids we shovel off to just being bad kids. And I don't think there are bad kids. I think there are kids who have amygdala and dysregulation issues that aren't sure what to do with themselves. And so the last one is don't quit. If not you, then who, right? You guys are doing some amazing work with kiddos. Those ones that are more challenging, find your space of love for them, right? And give them a little bit more, right? Turn that on and help to meet the needs so that they can feel more regulated. And you, in turn, my friends, will also feel more regulated, right? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hastings, for your engaging session packed with practical strategies for us to use as educators. The floor is now open for questions.
I'm so scared.
Yes.
Hi, thanks for all the practical tips you gave.
Good.
I might have missed it, but the camp is until the age of 11. The camp
is for 7 to 11-year-olds in the
yeah.
foster care system.
So I have students that are like the age of 15 or 16, and I'm having doubts if all those practical tips are really for them. What is your what? Yeah.
That's a great question. Yes, it is still for them. If they have high cortisol levels and they're in dysregulation, all of those things will work. Now, again, like doing the magic mustache with you guys, it's a little bit weird. They may not like it. Here's the deal, though. It's really good, goofy, playful engagement and silliness. And sometimes our youth need to be a little bit more silly. So if we can give that to them, they're going to feel a little bit more safe, even if it feels too silly for them. Does that make sense? So yes, all of those things will still work for youth. It will actually work for adults. Like these are things that I tell my adults that are in therapy that have had lots of trauma and or just dysregulate really quickly to do, and that they do. So implementing consistent eating times, movement, right? Go for a walk. I don't care what they do. I just want them moving their body. And then hydration is another one, right? So also we could do breathing exercises. I just didn't bring in breathing exercises because normally those are pretty known. So any type of breathing exercises. The other thing is polyvagal nerve theory has actually become quite a big section of therapy that we're looking into. There are actually some pretty good books out there about it that is basically all about that regulatory of the nervous system. And being able to regulate our nervous system will increase our felt safety every time. And so that's really what we want to do. Does that help?
Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
Great.
I agree with what you said about saying yes, because we've tried
Thank
this
you.
with my daughters, and it's working. It's
Good.
they are in the teenage now. They're doing well.
Good.
I have a question in terms of when you have a group correction to be done. So, for instance, about you get to know that maybe in a class of, say, 30, we've got 10 or 15 engaging in some dangerous games,
Yeah.
maybe getting physical.
Okay.
So how do
Yeah.
you address it? You've got to go for a group discussion on that, or what do you say?
Yeah. So, trust-based relational interventions has a thing called nurture groups, and I would probably use a nurture group on that. You bring them all together, and we talk about. We do. The rules are no hurts, right? That like fun rule of nobody should be hurt. Stick together, so we have to stay in it, and then have fun, which is a really interesting last one, but that's what it is. But in nurture groups, they can gauge how they are feeling, and there's one with Band-Aids where we can talk about inside and outside hurts and maybe do some work within that inside-outside hurt within the group, right? And see about if we can not then have some logic to talk about like, what in the end might this lead to that would be dangerous for you? Have you really thought about that, right? Because many times, especially with that, I mean, you've already got teens without, their prefrontal cortex online, and they really are in a repruning time of the brain. So logic is one of those things that tends to move out pretty quickly. So we want to think about like, how can I get them to that felt safety place within the group, as well as them being able to give some lessening about what is good and bad and what might work and what might not.
Yeah. So in those group conversations, can we talk about consequences?
So it's a nurture group.
So
So
we
we
don't talk
wouldn't
of
talk about the
consequences.
consequences there. We would talk about the overall consequences of if we keep doing this, what it could lead
Okay.
to. But we're not giving if you continue to this, then, because then we've ruptured the nurture of the group. Does that make sense? So I think, there has to be consequences in the world. Please hear me. I'm not anti-consequences. I also think, again, though, when we go back to thinking about ideal, that leveled at behavior is really, really important. And making sure that we are addressing it at where they can really see it, and then making the consequence not so big and arduous that it defeats why we're doing it. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Can I would want to hear your view and opinion about this. And this is very, very pertinent to students in India.
Okay.
Students here fear that they get the answer incorrect, so they should not be asking it, or they fear that they may not do well in the exams. And I think it's okay for a child to get the answer wrong. But then they are trained that you should be 100% right.
Oh.
They are trained right from day one. You can't be wrong. So how do we allow them, how do we enable them to know that it's fine to fail, it's fine to be wrong, and you get to learn from your mistakes?
So I would say that not being able to get it wrong feels like a threat to me.
Yeah.
So go with the amygdala thought, right? So if I feel threatened, and the only way that I feel okay is if I get it all right? If this is the only way, then I want to work on this cognition. I want to work on the thought of, no, you can really get things wrong. And I might, in a calm state, and this is why knowing calm and dysregulated states are really important, because you can't have this conversation in a non-regulated state. In a calm state, we want to be able to talk about what's the worst. I always ask the question of, especially little kids, what's the worst that can happen? What, right? And kind of play out the what if card with them in a very kind of logical format, right? And then I would come up with, one of my favorite things to do with all clients, even kiddos, is to come up with a mantra. Like, I am okay, I'm gonna be okay, it's okay to not get everything right? Right? So I might come up with things, I might even put it up in my classroom. It's okay to get it wrong, right? Like, it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay, and I think the bottom layer of that, though, in connection would be, you are still dearly loved and mattered, even if we get a problem wrong, even if, right? Like, this does not equate to this, where they can't necessarily see that how precious they are has nothing to do with how well they do in school. And so I think trying to X out that equals for them would be your best option, if that makes sense.
There's one more question.
Quick suggestion, because as a teacher, imagine my child is getting trained in that way. As you say, it's okay to be wrong, or it's yes all the time. But I'm a parent at home. I'm a parent at home. I might not get along with the teacher. What the teacher is telling at school, I won't be aware at all. So I might say, no, you can't you can't be doing this, I'm wrong. Or I can say, no, it's not always yes. So the child will face that
Difference at
home
school.
as well as school. So how can I bridge it, ma'am?
Okay. I think there is a part of parent education that is important. And I think the same thing that I said to you guys, where you're still technically saying no, you're just not using the word no. I'm just not saying no, right? There's a difference between I'm saying yes to give you everything you want versus I'm going to not say no and give you what you need. Does that and so because there's a difference in that, that would be what I would be trying to help parents to understand. I'm not saying yes because I'm being overly permissive. That's not the goal. I'm saying yes so we can stay connected and the need can be met. Does that help? And I do think I do this with parents in therapy all the time. And I get these looks of like, and I get you're not a parent, you must not get, and I'm like, no. I know I'm not a parent, but I parent 88 kids on a mountain for an entire week. And trust me, some days it's harder. Some days it feels harder, right? And so I try and say, like, what you're hearing, you're only hearing one part of it. You have to hear the goal. And the goal is about connecting with your kid. And if no is the disruptor to the connection, it's not worth using the word. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, hopefully that helps.
Yes, thank you. We have, yes, one question.
This is a question about older people.
Okay, I can do that.
So in a university class of 20-year-olds,
Yes, ma'am.
commonly get dysregulated children
ma'am.
when asked to come to the front. Mm-hmm. And what is very clear is there's a power dynamic that's culturally created. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So there's a fear. Mm-hmm. So theoretically, a coaching style will be supportive.
Uh-huh.
But in a university environment, the time for a coaching style is very limited.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just interested in your view on the neuroscience of the power, the cultural differential in a perceived power dynamic. So our goal is to reduce the perceived power dynamic.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the goal in therapy is to reduce the perceived power dynamic as well, oftentimes, right? Like, as a therapist, I don't want my client thinking I'm way up here and they're way down here, right? So I'm trying to bridge that gap. I do a lot of because we do a lot of presentations in my program, and I do a lot of preemptive work about how to help them to get through that presentation. I also make the presentation, there has to be creativity involved. So whatever that creativity might be, it kind of takes them out of the presentation for a few moments and then being able to come back in. There's almost a release valve in it, right? They can do some of their deep breathing. They can do what they need to do in order to kind of get back. I don't think we can erase the power dynamic. And I think actually the gentleman behind you, it's the same question of what happens to the fear and how do we get these very perfectionistic students to let go of the perfectionism. And I think, again, it's all about how that grade's going to turn out. And so then what do we say to students about grades? And I tell my students, I'm going to get myself in trouble right now. I tell my students, if you can't turn in that paper, then you're going to get a B in the class and your life is going to go on, right? Like, I don't tell them, like, your life is going to now erode and you're never going to be anything, right? I say, if you need to go take care of yourself, go take care of yourself, right? So I think also it is a dynamic of the program and the university and what the university allows. So I'm at a private Christian university, and so I kind of have a lot more leeway than many other of the red tape roped universities. So that's probably doesn't clearly answer your question, but that's kind of where we're at, right? You're welcome. Yeah.
We'll just take one more question.
Oh, okay. All right. She said one more.
Actually, it's less of a question than a comment.
Okay.
Because I think there are certain cultural forces that are different to Western upbringing and, let's say, Indian context. The role of parents is uniquely different. Just thinking about the point that the sir has raised about where do children get the idea that you should not fail is actually from homes. And I think Indian culture is a very shame-oriented culture. Mm-hmm. Therefore, your child is taught to be shameful about your failures, about not being wrong. So much so that family name is itself involved in what you choose or don't choose. Mm-hmm. And I think you being, having that insight,
yeah,
right?
For sure.
So a lot of this is new or probably can be resisted because you don't see the background of what parents do to their children.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's a need even for a parental seminar of, understanding how do you connect with kids and not having that very shame-oriented approach.
Yeah. No, I agree. You are 100% correct. Yeah. Good.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Hastings.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your participation in the Q&A.